We were in negotiations.
Investing in real estate.
They're winning, they're making money.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Real Estate Educators Podcast, where we provide the education you can build on. I am your host, Kevin Amolsch. This podcast is unlike anything I've seen or anything we have done in that we focus on real estate investors and the content creation behind that. We want to help real estate investors and real estate influencers make more money. If you like what you hear, maybe even if you don't, please do me a favor, give me a 5-star review and share it with a friend. Speaking of friends, I've got one with me today. I am so excited to have Anthony with us. I have no idea how this is going to go because he's one of the most chill, hilarious guys I know. Whenever we go to his hometown in Minneapolis, he's the first call I make. It's like, let's hang out, bud. That's what the phone call is, and I'm always looking forward to that. So quickly, I'm going to have him introduce himself, but huge background in real estate developments, short-term rentals, apartment complexes, flips, construction, all of that. And he came before that, a background in custom paint jobs on automobiles. So let's hear this story. Anthony, what's up, man?
Well, hey, Kevin, first of all, I want to thank you for having me on. It's always great to see you again and talk with you and catch up. And also, I really do enjoy sharing my story. It's funny you bring up the automotive thing, and everybody always jumps in and asks, hey, how did you get started in real estate? Well, it was thanks to all my clients in the automotive world. I specialize in restoring cars and custom paint jobs, and I realized everybody I was building cars for made their money in real estate. I'm like, well, if I could be half as good in real estate as I am at doing these cars, no doubt I'd be successful. And I made that transition. I started doing auto body in 2005. And I finally left in 2017 to go full-time into real estate. I got into real estate in about 2014. So I'm coming up on a decade. I never really stop and take a look backwards. When I look at my career in real estate, things just kind of fell into place, and I never realized how much I acquired and did over the past 9 years. And so it's like a compounding effect because I never thought I had any major, huge wins. It was just all about hitting those singles and doubles, and there was a couple grand slams in there. And early on in my career, I started attending the meetups that Pine would host here. And they were during the day. So I would leave work on my lunch break. So they would have a luncheon meetups. And I'm like, well, anybody in real estate, that's anybody, chances are going to be going to the daily meetings rather than the nightly meetings because their focus is 100% real estate. So I would sneak out of work, go there for an hour, hour and a half network, and then zip back to work. So, you know, in the auto body, it was just killing me staying in it for too long. I would work 10 hours at one job, and then me and a buddy had another shop, and I'd work till about 1 o'clock in the morning. And I knew I couldn't keep up at that pace. It was great money, and I really had a passion for it, but there was a time I had to just let go, and that basically was thank you to my kids. So I ended up having a son in 2013 and a daughter in 2016, and I was able to walk away from my full-time automotive job and go full-time in real estate in 2017. June 1st of 2017, I'll never forget the date. However, I felt like I was far more productive when I did have a job. So I could manage 8-9 flips at a time. We got started in flipping. Our very first project we ever had, it was actually someone I'd met at Pine Financial walked me through purchase agreement. I had no idea what I was doing, and Pine funded it. It was a 100% funding deal. It worked out great. I did everything wrong, and I still made money. But I actually leaned on my network that I had, and Sean here in Minnesota with Pine. It was a great asset to have. I'd always be texting him, calling him, be like, hey, should I do this? I'm like, I got to make room for washer and dryers. He's like, yep, just have the hookups. Don't put washer and dryers in. I'm like, well, I thought we needed that. And he's like, that's an extra 12 to 2,000 or $1,200 to $2,000 that you're not going to get back. And it made complete sense. And I was a little over budget anyways. But you know, fast forward now, like you said, we're in land development. We have apartments, we have multifamily, we have motel. We're looking at acquiring a few more of those for land banking. We have commercial real estate, a little over 30,000 square foot building with multi-tenant leases. Doing a few more build outs. We have an extra 6,000 square feet to build out to make it complete. It's all sorts of stuff, but it's all through networking and doing the right thing. So
That's such a fascinating story. So I remember when I first met you, it was at one of our success summits. It was a Saturday full day event, and it was at the happy hour after. I don't know if you remember this, but you and I, we hung out for, gosh, it feels like an hour maybe talking about party buses. And you like got yourself into the party bus business for a little while. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so that's a pretty funny story. Is I was actually doing auto body, and some guy was getting his car fixed, and he actually was a pastor to a church. I had given him a ride back to the church because we kind of had like a little courier service that we'd give them a ride back to their car when they dropped a car off because they didn't have a vehicle. So I gave him a ride back to the church, and I said, "That's a nice bus you got there." And he's like, "Oh yeah, you want to buy it? We'll sell it to you for $500." And it was a 77 passenger bus, and it was big and red, and it said Vital Mission down the side with like a heartbeat thing. And so that was a long time ago, but it was about the perfect timing because all my friends were turning 21. So it was 21, and then they had friends that were getting married. So we do bachelor parties, bachelorette parties. There's a lot of gray areas with party buses. It was before, a few people have had party buses, but now, it's like a mainstream thing. I'm glad I got out of it when I did. I had so much fun doing it. It was something that actually I used all the money to pay for my vacations every year. I'd make, a lot of cash money that'd go right to my vacations. And everybody's like, "Well, how do you go on so many cruises and trips?" I'm like, I have money from my party bus. It's a business now. So it was a lot of fun. It was the funny thing is my wife Cassie, she was interested in buying another one now that we're adults because we have so many kids that or friends that have kids, and we can't all just fit in one vehicle. Well, if we got a bus, we would. So it might be in the works. It'd be more just for private use and just for fun. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good stories there, a lot that I can't share here. So, but yeah, I remember the first time we had met, and I mean, it was a friendship from the beginning. The amount of knowledge that you guys have over at Pine is it led to a lot of my success, and I appreciate you guys being friends and business, partners in the deals that we have. So.
Yeah, I was so fascinated by that party bus. That's why I was like intrigued with the conversation, why it went on for so long. But gosh, what an interesting transition. Like maybe we dig into that a little bit if you want, like how you even got into that. I know you just mentioned that you saw it and you like bought it for $500, but such a weird thing to do. And it really goes to your entrepreneur spirit. Like you are a true entrepreneur at the core. So let's actually go back. I want to dig in a little bit on how you got into real estate. So I understand that your clients were real estate investors, and you saw that look, there's money in it. These are nice cars. I'm painting these nice cars. But like, what's the first deal you did? Let's just talk about that. What's the first deal you did?
Okay. Well, yeah. So what actually jump started me in real estate is my wife and I were wanting to do something more. We didn't want to work for someone our whole life. And so by having the option of freedom and building our own wealth through either some sort of business, and all of a sudden we heard one of those ads, learn how to flip houses without using any of your own money, using other people's money. And it was a free seminar, it was 2 hours, and then they charge you the 199 for the 3 day. And then the 3 day, they charge you 25 grand. Well, I'm not saying mentorships are for everyone, but they were for me. They were for me and my wife. And instead of working at my second job, I would work 10, 12 hours at my first job, and then I would stay up till 1 a.m. studying. I would fall asleep with my computer going, and I'd have to go back and rewatch a lot of stuff. And we had bought in for $25,000, our first flip we ever did. We actually found, I was started telling my friends that we're getting into real estate, and my next door neighbor, one of my best friends, he's the walking mailman in town, so he knows what everybody's what everybody's doing, whether they're getting divorced, whether they're in bankruptcy, because he sees the mail come through. And he's like, "Hey, someone on my route, I just talked to them, and their father passed away, and they got a house, there's 6 kids, and they just want to sell it. They want to be done. It needs work." And that's where I was like, "Yeah, that sounds great." I set up a meeting with the executive of the estate, one of the siblings, and then we ended up having a sit down conversation with all of them, which is very intimidating for your first deal, and you don't really know what you're doing. But that's where, when I went to one of the Pine meetings, I brought the purchase agreement. I walked through everything, and it was my good friend Patrick Galloway had walked through everything on it. for me. I'm like, well, what's this sentence, this paragraph mean? He's like, you don't need to worry about that. I'm like, but what if they ask me about it? I need to know how to answer. So he probably spent an hour and a half going through like a 36-page purchase agreement, which was way overkill. But we were in negotiations. We established a price, and then we sat down and we inked the deal. And I'm like, all right, now I need to know how to fund it because I don't have any money. I just spent it on a mentorship package. Um, However, that's where Pine came in, and Pine looked at the deal, and there we got an appraisal, and it was came in way over what we were thinking, and it was a lot of work. I mean, I hired people to do it, but then there's also things I just didn't like, and I ended up spending a lot more time than I should have. I will never rip off wallpaper again. We had a lot of wallpaper we had to remove on
Oh,
this
I've
house,
done that. Yeah.
and that's where it's like, and my wife's pregnant at the time, and so she's over there working. And yeah, I was like, well, this isn't sustainable, but neither was my auto body career. But you know what? I keep looking at the big paycheck at the end of the day. It was like I said, we did everything wrong. We should have hired everything out. We still would have made money. Instead, we spent a lot of time, a lot of our own time, which we shouldn't have. But we didn't know. And the mentorship told us, yep, you have to do this. But we were like, well, we got to save money. We got to do this. The more work we do, the more money we make. And that's where I've learned throughout the years that you can't be everywhere. You can't do everything. And that's where you got to rely on your team. And in doing that, fast forward a few years, I ended up starting a construction company. But that's where the entrepreneurship comes into play. Is I've always figured out a way. If someone gives me a direction, I can figure it out. Well, with the mentorship package and my network around here in Minnesota has been great. They helped guided me in the right direction, and I was able to do a lot more with less time.
So you owe a lot, it sounds like, to that mentorship program.
Yep, I wouldn't even know what real estate meetups were, and now I run one of the second largest real estate meetups in the state, which I believe community is the new currency. When you have that, you have anybody you can go to. There's a lot of people that I help out because I have a great Rolodex because I have that real estate club, and
Yeah.
that's when everybody's like, well, do you have a good real estate attorney? Yeah, I have a great one. I have a couple of them. I have some that are really good friends of mine and some that I use only when people need to be treated.
A little
when when,
differently.
car, when karma needs to come into play, you find the network and you grow within it. And I wouldn't even have known what the RIAs, the meetups. I wouldn't have never met you. I would have. There's so many friends I made along the way, and knock on wood, I've only been burned a few times by a few contractors, but you adjust and you know what to do. People say they'll do everything for you, but it don't always come through.
Yeah, I love what you're saying here, and I want to get into the education and how you kind of went that direction. I know you use that mostly for your own deals. You're not trying to profit from that, but the network is so huge, and I love hanging out with you too. You flew out here to Denver and we went skiing together, and I come out there a couple times a year, or at least once a year, and love hanging out with you out there. Danielle and Cassie get along great. People say that this is a lonely business, and it is, but it doesn't necessarily have to be, right? So you created a community, you created a network that you rely on now. So yeah, let's go into it right now. So tell me about
Okay.
your association.
Yeah, so I started attending a RIA in here, and it was fairly inexpensive to join. It was about $199 a year. I'm like, well, it makes sense to join. I want to be around like-minded individuals. But what I found out, there's a lot of people, and it's not knocking the group. Everybody learns at different paces, and everybody has different needs and wants. But I started attending these meetups, and everybody's like, "Oh, I'm a wholesaler." I'm like, "Okay, well, do you have any active wholesale deals you'd like to sell?" No, I'm like, okay, well, how many have you wholesale? Well, I have none yet. I'm working on it. I'm working
Yeah.
on my first deal. And it was I kept meeting tire kickers, and I'm like, there's got to be something else out there. And that's when I started going to the Pine luncheons, and I realized the people that are showing up at night at some of these groups are the ones with full-time jobs. And there's nothing wrong against that. I highly advise keeping your W-2 job for acquiring real estate. But when you get into more of the passive side, after you've built up your portfolio, if that's the direction you wanted to go, by all means, you can focus 100% on real estate and free up a lot of your time. And whether it's time freedom or a flexible schedule, and those are two different things. Is
Totally.
where when you have a business and you're running it, it's keeping you busy and you're making money. However, if you have you don't have any obligations that you need to be, that's a true business owner, a passive business owner, in passive rentals. People can say they're passive. It doesn't matter. You're still going to spend some amount of time, unless you're just a straight up passive investor. And, I think obviously investing in Pine, you guys offer 8% return. It was like,
That's
yeah,
right.
no investors ever lost money. I'm like, well, I'm going to get to that someday. Like, I like my real estate portfolio, but at some point, I don't want to deal with anything. And that's where, I mean, I park my money. I trust you guys. I've been doing business since 2015 with you guys. We just sold one the other day that we had with you guys as
That's
well.
right.
And that was another 100% funded deal. We've had a lot of solid wins that we couldn't have been able to do without you. But the real estate club, I didn't start the club. However, I started attending it. And I liked the people in the room. It was more of my group. It was 25, 30 people. But there was something missing. There was like, it was in a club, there was in an office space, and you could utilize the office space if you were a club member. But there was just something missing at both of these events. And I figured that out was everybody networks a little bit easier when they have 2 or 3 cocktails in them. So I started having beer available at these. So I suggested, because the one I was actually presenting on, it was October, so I wanted to do an Oktoberfest, and my passion about Oktoberfest is likely like yours, and so I was like, well, we got to have some beer. So the owner of the club, he's like, well, here's $50, go get some beer. So I went and bought a bunch of Oktoberfest beer, and it happened to be one of the best networking events ever. So from then on out, we started having beer and wine available. We always had snacks and everything. And fast forward about a year and a half, 2 years, we ended up taking over, because the person that started that club kind of transitioned out of real estate and to do other. He's just a serial entrepreneur. He's always going and trying to figure out a different way to make a buck. And where I wanted to focus on real estate, and that's where he's like, "Hey, I really want you to take over the club." And I said, "Yeah, that'd be great. I'm presenting and hosting almost every single week or month, anyways." But how it all started is when I attended the club. He asked the owners. He's like, "Well, what do you do in real estate?" I'm like, "Oh, well, I still have a full-time job and I'm still new." And he's like, "Well, how long you been doing it?" I'm like, "Well, about a year." He's like, "Well, you're not really that new anymore, So, and I said, "Well, at some point, I'd like to, be a lot further along." He's like, "Well, just keep going and you will." And so he's like, "Well, how many flips have you done?" And I was like, "Well, I've completed 3." And he's like, "Well, 3 in a year for your first year is a lot." And I was like, "Well, I guess I didn't think it was." And to me, I never look at myself as wildly successful or anything, because I've never done anything too crazy. But it is the consistency that just keeps going that's going to get you in the right direction. So I started presenting my case studies, and after 2 years, we ended up having a case study, a brand new case study every single month. I never had to repeat my case studies. Everybody would be like, "Wow, you're doing a lot in real estate," and they'd start asking me questions like, "Hey, what did you do? Have you ever experienced this?" And it was just a snowball effect. And I think we're at about 43 flips we've done. I don't think we lost money on one. My wife argues that we lost money if you count my time to finish it, but we did get hosed by a contractor. They actually had purchased all the cabinets and everything, and then he was squatting in the house. And next thing you know, he broke into the house, stole the cabinets, returned them, got the money, and then took off to Colorado. So we'll have to find him someday.
He
But
came here.
I
I
let
didn't know
karma.
that.
Yeah, I let karma take care of that stuff, and you can only chase it so hard. He didn't have much money to go after anyway, so I kind of just
Yeah.
moved on, accepted the loss. And but we've had a lot of wins throughout the years, and we never really collect any of that money to live off of. That was all reinvested back into real estate, and it's the compounding effect. And when it starts going, it starts going. And I never stopped back to take a look at how far I'd become, until one of my business partners brought it up, and she's like, You should really be proud of yourself. This is, it's your honesty and integrity that got you this far, and it's going to take you way further." And she had brought it up to me, and I was like, God, I just never stopped back to reflect. Even though in my mentorship program, it always says you got to celebrate all wins. And I just kept putting my nose to the grindstone and kept going. And by building the real estate club into a different brand, so we kind of rebranded it. It's the networking that drives revenue, is what the original brand was. But also, I wanted the community. I wanted like-minded individuals, people that thought the way I did, that did the same things
Genius.
I did. And in the mentorship program that I had, they said if you start attending every single local meetup, And if there isn't any available, start your own. Well, I took over one, and I owe a lot of success to that because of the people that were in that room. And like I said, now I have a Rolodex full of great people, and I also have a blacklist of people that I don't want to use again. So by building that, it it made it into a community that I get excited to go to. Where sometimes it's like, oh, I got this meeting after work I got to go to. Now it's like, oh, I'm fired up. We do boat cruises in July. We go on the margaritas on the Mississippi. We do horse racing at Canterbury Downs here in September. We have a big holiday party. We bring in various different topics, any and all things real estate. When I was trying to transition out of flipping houses and get more into the land development and commercial or multifamily, I realized a lot of the investors wanted to do the same. They just weren't ready. However, they still needed to get their feet wet flipping houses. And so I ended up hosting an event called Build Your Real Estate Dream Team. And it's everything and anything you need to be successful in real estate. And it's title company, hard money lenders, bankers, flooring, cabinets, countertops, painters, roofers, siders, everything that you need in real estate. I had 17 different vendors in. I rented out the largest room at the Embassy Suites to host this. I had no idea if it was going to make sense or not, and everybody loved it. So I do it once a year, and all I did was made sure the people that work, help me be successful get more business so they can be more successful. And so it was a very positive environment. Everybody was fired up. And we had the cocktail table set around the room. We had the waitress and waiters walking around with the hors d'oeuvres. It was set up like a cocktail party, and I never knew that that was something I could do. But when you have a club and you get feedback from your members, you host whatever makes sense. We do foreclosure classes, 1031 exchanges, self-directed retirements, how to get all your deals funded, cost segregations, anything and everything. And that's where if my club members want to learn about a topic, if I don't know that person that's the expert in that topic, I'll find him. And if I have to, I'll fly him in. So that's where it's a very powerful community that if you're in real estate and are stuck, go out and network. Go to these club meetings or real estate associations, and these are things that will be game changers in the long run. And don't forget to look how far you've become in such a short amount of time.
The Real Estate Educators Podcast is brought to you by Pine Financial Group. Pine Financial Group is a private lender specializing in value-add bridge lending for real estate investors. This is accomplished by raising private money from individual investors and lending that money out in short-term real estate loans. Pine operates one of the coolest public mortgage funds on the market because it brings consistency and security to your investment portfolio without giving up on returns. The fund pays its investors a flat 8% return with monthly distributions. There is a low minimum investment and no lockup period. That's right, you can request all of your money back at any time without any fees. Diversify your portfolio out of Wall Street and into Main Street with the Pine Financial Group Public Fund PFG Fund 5. Find out more at pinefinancialgroup.com. That's pinefinancialgroup.com. Oh my gosh, there's so much, Anthony, to unpack there. And we're kind of running a little on time here. I'm going to have you back on if you're up for it and kind of go through some of this stuff. But I wrote down, and this is what everyone's been telling me on the podcast so far, is that when you really focus on your audience and your community and helping other people be successful, you become very successful. And you said the exact same thing. The consistency, building the community, it's not just about revenue, it's about a community and being involved and welcome and supported. And all of that is huge. And you created that with your club. I know you say you take it over, and I guess you did, but you really have created this yourself. And I'm proud of you, man. I'm proud of you. I enjoyed watching this journey and proud to be a part of it. Love hanging out with you. Let's talk about, like, what is it? How do people get involved if they're in the area? You're in Minnesota, so how do people get involved, and what events you got coming up? And let's go through that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. No, I appreciate it, and The real estate club, it was when we took it over. It's called the Minnesota Real Estate Club. We rebranded it and wanted to have something that was a fun environment that people were fired up to attend to. This just wasn't another boring class you're going to go learn about something. We always have our networking, we have our deal pitching. So if somebody has a wholesale, a rehab, anything like that available, we do business amongst the community. And the greatest thing is I have about a 3,000 uh, person email list for I blast out wholesales or deals to, but I get first crack at every single deal. One of my club members email me one. I'm like, yeah, I'll take that one. Or I'll be like, I already know who wants that because, well, that's Edina. This is the person that buys in that area. Or that one's way out in Hutchinson. I have people out there as well. So it's the Minnesota Real Estate Club, not just the Twin Cities Real Estate Club. We got two guys that drive down every single month from Duluth, and because they love what we had to offer. And actually, I met them at one of the investor success summits, and they
Wow.
became club members. And they don't miss a meeting. They drive down 2.5 hours every single second Thursday of the month. So we have it monthly meetings. So it's the second Thursday of every single month, and we have a big boat cruise coming up in July, which we rent out the boat. So it's margaritas on the Mississippi. It's all you can eat, all you can drink. We have tacos, nachos, margaritas, beers, wine, whatever you want. We have a link available on our Facebook page. It's called the MN Real Estate Club or the Minnesota Real Estate Club. We have the webpage for sign up. Our membership dues are fairly inexpensive for what you're getting out of it. We offer it for $397 a year, so it's $400 a year. And if you have a partner that you want to come along to the meetings, it's $597 for both of you. But what that includes is that's your dinner every second Thursday, that's your drinks, and that gets you into the community. That makes you a club member. And we want it to be like a good old boys club, but also with a new twist on it, where it wasn't just a bunch of people saying, I'm going to do a deal. I'm going to do a deal. It's like, how can we help you get your first deal? How can we help you get the next one? And revenue and money is a byproduct. What comes in this? I never did the real estate club to get rich, but what happens out of it is money does follow it. And that's where the community is the new currency. You have like-minded individuals around you, they're going to get you fired up. They're gonna want you to be successful, and you're gonna want them to be successful. It's a ladder that you're all climbing together. And I've done a lot of deals where it's just my friends, that I met through real estate, and they're my best friends. My business partners are my best friends. Any of my deals, I don't offer them to anyone else. I want to make sure that if I'm part of it, I want them part of it. There's been so many times where some of my business partners uh, brought a deal, and I'm like, well, what do you need me in this deal for? They're like, because we want you to. I'm like, I don't see. I mean, like, I'll help you. I'll negotiate everything for you for free. And they're like, no, we want you part of the deal. And so I get a lot of ownership and a lot of properties, and it works out really well. And through the club, I've learned a lot about seller financing, creative structures, and it's nothing that's unheard of. People are doing it. I just didn't know it was possible until I learned about it, and then I took a deep dive into it. And I think that's a very powerful tool, especially in today's market with the high interest rates and on the longer term holds. And it's not the cost of money, it's the availability of money on the short term flips. And, anything under 2 years, I don't care what money costs as long as the profit makes sense to do it yet. But the longer term holds, you got to get creative. Some banks won't do much over 3 to 5 years right now. There's always a balloon payment, and 3 to 5 years might get you out of this high interest rates. After reading a few articles, but I think we're in uncharted waters. We don't know where to go. But I'm still actively making offers, and I'm not so much on single family houses anymore, more so on land deals and stuff that's sustainable on its own, even if the land deals don't come across. I don't buy a property if it's got less than an acre and a half right now. I know what I can put on 2 acres, and I know what I can put on an acre and a half. If it's a busy corner and it's got over an acre and a half, I know that a C store is going to end up being interested in that at some point if it's a high traffic area. So I always look to see if Quick Trip or Holiday, Circle K, or someone or Super America is looking to expand, and I want to buy that land, or if I want to tear it down and end up putting up an apartment complex in a few years on demand and growth. So I watch a lot of market studies and try to buy stuff that makes sense and cash flow so where it sits, so that way I'm not sitting there shelling out money every single month.
Painting cars, huh? Look at
Yeah.
you. Last couple things. You mentioned something that stuck with me here, and you said tire kickers, and that was the other real estate club that you were going to. You found value, but you were surrounding yourself from tire kickers, and you wanted to surround yourself with more like-minded, action-oriented people. Um, let's dig into you for just a quick second. What gave you the motivation to actually take the action to do that very first flip?
Well, when you spend $25,000 you on a
Maybe that's
mentorship
it, right?
program,
That'll do it.
you better use it. And so that's one other thing is my club. I don't offer anything for sale. I don't try to push something that my club members don't need down their throats. Where a lot of different meetups make their money by taking a percentage of the profits of the sales for wholesaling courses, rehabbing courses, buying notes, tax liens. They're making money off of every package sold. Where I don't want to sell anything. Nothing's for sale except for memberships at mine. If all of a sudden one of my speakers has a service that you want, then yes, absolutely you can go. If you want to go get a cost segregation, I got a great guy for it. You can go utilize him. And that's what it's all about is I don't want to sell you something you don't need. Did I need the mentorship package? Absolutely. I needed a little motivation to get me in the right direction. But is it for everyone? No. If you're already attending the Minnesota Real Estate Club or other meetups, you're already in the right room. You already are further along than I was when I started. I had no idea this world existed. And that's what I right now I try to promote that. Hey, if you're looking for something a little different, whether you want to be in real estate or not, we have people that are doctors that are there that they want to invest in real estate. And I'm actually in a doctor's office right now. We did a medical office build up. We framed up everything. This was kind of a blank slate building. I'm just here. It got some punch list items, taking notes, and I'll have my guys finish up next week. But yeah, I mean, it's amazing. And I met them through the real estate club. And we get a lot of new investors where they bought into a mentorship package and they spent a lot of money on it and they get stuck. And I'm like, well, you got to follow and go back. They're like, well, with my full-time job, it's just too much. So I had one investor that bought into a mentorship program, and he had came to me and I had helped him out with a couple flips and a couple of his rental properties. He's like, you are like a USB plug and play, everything I need under one roof. And I'm like, well, that's, what the club gets you. And, but it took me years to build that type of Rolodex and trusted contractors, trusted people to do business with, lenders, title companies, everything. And that's the direction I want more people to focus on, because you can spin your wheels tirelessly going to every single meetup and you'll be blue in the face. And if you don't take action, you'll never, all that would just be a waste of time.
Yeah. And being around a group like yours, where there's a smaller group, 30, 40, I think, and everybody's pretty active, right? So you get yourself into a room like that for $400. I mean, gosh, seems like a great deal. So the last thing before we go, we're going to have you back if you're up for it, man, because I want to get into some case studies and some of your deals that you're doing and some more of the benefit that you're providing to your community. But Oktoberfest, you never responded to my text.
So I meant to respond, and I know I missed your birthday too. So happy birthday, a month and a day late. So sorry about that. I just have been busy, and I meant to respond to that. I did check out the dates on the calendar. There happens to be nothing going on. I just need to convince my wife. So,
okay.
And I was going to surprise you after I did say yes. I was going to go. But yeah, so I told you when I first met you, and you had mentioned Oktoberfest, and I said it's been one of my lifelong goals, and it's on my bucket list to go to Oktoberfest. And instead of waiting every year, I just need to go, because I know I want to go every single year then too. I know we had a plan to go, but it was a COVID issue. We weren't able to go. So I'm about 90% in.
Okay.
I want to make sure that it all works out. That it's been a lifelong dream, and I know obviously it'd be a lot of fun with the group of people and going with you. So
and there's gonna be some real estate folks there, and we're just gonna be drinking beer and hanging out, and networking and well, partying. So hopefully you
that
can
sounds like the real estate club.
Sounds just like it. No Mississippi River. We're going to be in a secluded tent, drinking warm beer and listening to American music. And we're going to fly all the way across the world to do it. But it's a great time, man. Hopefully you can make it. Is there any final words you want to share with us before we have to let you go?
No, I just want to say, thank you and how much I appreciate you and your company for years of success and doing great deals together, and having me on. And for people that are just getting started, just jump in and get going, take action. Biggest thing is do what you say you're going to do and follow through. I always, everybody always wonders, how do you be successful? And I said, F you, follow up. Follow up. That's what FU stands for. Follow up. So
That's awesome.
Not swearing on here, but you follow up with everything and you send a text. And that's my demise right there with you. I forgot to follow up with that. It was a group message in my defense, but that was my fault for not going through that. But yeah, follow up and call someone. And if you are stuck, reach out. Don't be afraid to ask for help. No one got to the top alone. And if you did, it's probably pretty lonely up there. I want to be the one reaching down and pulling people up with me.
You crack me up, man. All right, check it out. Minnesota Real Estate Investment Club. You can find them, he said, on Facebook. So we'll get the link, put it in the show notes. But check it out, Minnesota Real Estate Investment Club. Anthony, thank you so much, man. It's great to have you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. If you did, please be sure to follow and leave us a review. Oh yeah, and tell a friend.